Our kids are currently being attacked on all angles, from both sides, the left wing and the right wing, the Democrats and the Republicans. That's why I don't get too caught up in these politics and this side and that side. They're both two wings on the same bird. And that bird is used to actively attack black people and declare war on black people. On the right side, you have anti-black racism being used in these schools to target our kids. And also you have miseducation as well, with them saying that black people, quote unquote, benefited from slavery. And then on the left wing side, right, you have sexual perversion, sexual confusion being pushed on our kids at an early age, promoting the quote unquote depopulation agenda, because that's what it is. If there's all women with women and all men with men, then we cannot procreate. So let's get into it.
Hello, my name is Travis Washington. I understand police officers have a hard job. Police officers are first responders, and as city council members, you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure the city feels safe. In this budget hearing, I understand that funding the police with the best budget possible will bring a sense of security in the city. My biggest problem is accountability. The names like Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, Jacob Blake, Ayanna Jones, Daniel Shaver, Jalen Walker, Frederick Holder, and Dominic Lewis were individuals that were shot unarmed by the police. In Milwaukee, the City Council voted on the legislation called the George Floyd Policing Act. The City Council voted to be put on record in support of the federal law of George Floyd Justice of Policing. It's not to be a law, it's to show that they support it. Hello, my name is Travis Washington. I am the creator of the Hands Up Act. It's a law where if a police officer shoots somebody in the arm, it's a mandatory 15-year prison sentence. I've received more than 2.7 million signatures. Michael Brown's mother has signed it. Anton Rose's mother has signed it. Andres Grisdora's mother has signed it. And Marcelo Sinn's sister has also signed it. My goal is to push you aldermen to support the Hands Up Act legislation and be counted on record to support this, whether you support it or not, and to make sure that City of Indianapolis understands that you care about police accountability. Once again, my name is Travis Washington. I'm the Hands Up Act creator. Thank you.
County.
They're being pulled because of their color.
Black students pulled out of class and sent to a special assembly in the cafeteria.
Their test grades are not going to be great no matter what race you are.
Parents claim they were left in the dark. The school district does confirm that the black elementary students were isolated for this assembly in an effort to improve test scores. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Brown.
And I'm Luann Sorrell. 4th and 5th graders were pulled out of class in the middle of the day. Fox 35's Chris Lindsay is joining us live from Bunnell Elementary. And Chris, the parents you spoke to are livid about this.
That's right. These parents want to make sure their children are never singled out again. Even though these meetings were supposed to be about improving grades, it was their skin color that determined if they win or not.
That made my blood boil. I mean, you don't say that. 4th, 5th graders?
That's Daryl Williams. He's 10-year-old Briley's father. On Friday, she was called out of her class for an assembly at Bunnell Elementary. When she showed up, she noticed all of the kids in attendance were black, and that did not sit well with her parents.
The enemy wants to go out off and flip off on somebody, but you won't get answers that way. So, I got to set an example for my daughter.
According to the school district, this was the school's attempt to motivate the black children to raise their test scores. Friday's presentation opened up with the statement, AA have underperformed on standardized assessments for the last 3 years. AA meaning African American. They say they only have 32% of the black students at a level 3 or higher for English and math, and the goal is 41%.
I haven't been able to sleep.
I spoke with a woman who goes by Mrs. A. Her daughter told her about the meeting when she came home from school. She immediately reached out to the school's principal.
It's disturbing. It's baffling. You really thought this was okay.
I reached out to the principal, Donnell Evanson, as well, and haven't heard back. The district superintendent, LaShakia Moore, issued a statement saying, in speaking with Mrs. Evanson, it is clear there was no malice intended in planning this student outreach. However, sometimes when you try to think outside the box, you forget why the box is there. Some parents were satisfied with the messaging they heard from the principal, while others weren't. All of them on the same page saying it should never happen again.
Because we don't send our kids to school to be harassed or bullied or be told that they're not, great as their classmates, or this can happen if they don't succeed.
Superintendent Moore says it's still under investigation. She encourages parents with questions to reach out to her or the principal here at the school.
So as you can see, that took place in Florida, the same place where Governor DeSantis is pushing that black people benefited from slavery. Yes, you got that right. And as you can see, black kids, 4th and 5th graders, were targeted because of quote unquote low test scores. So let's get into it about these test scores in the first place, right? So in these schools, they're not really teaching our kids anything. They are teaching these kids on how to basically pass tests. Cram all this information into your head so you can pass a test. They teaching our kids how to be a worker. They're not teaching our kids how to be innovative, how to be creative, how to do actual problem solving. They're teaching our kids how to be workers, basically how to be mice. That's what they do with mice. They give this mice a test, and if the mice fail, they deem this mice not as competent as the other mice. But the thing is that everybody learns different, and different strokes work for different folks. And the way that they have schools set up is basically similar to prison. They have you march in a straight line. They have you eat at a certain time. They have you sitting down 8 hours a day. They might have you switch out classes when you get in middle school, but elementary, they have you trying to sit down in the same place 8 hours a day. Like, what kid wants to sit down in the class for 8 hours a day? And the thing is, a lot of kids have to actually see things, have to actually do them themselves, have to actually apply them to learn them better. So you teaching kids, all this theoretical stuff, math, science, and stuff like that. But you're not teaching them anything that they can actually apply in real life. You're not teaching them things to where they can actually do hands-on things. They're not teaching them any of that. That's why most kids don't care for school. It feels like a prison. They're not really learning anything productive or conducive to life itself. When these teenagers get out here in the real world, they be completely lost because they're not prepared. They're not prepared. And that's why we had to start getting our kids out of these schools. Because all they are doing is just miseducating our kids. They're miseducating our kids. And the thing is with these test scores, right? Because just because the test scores are low or whatever, it doesn't mean that you're done. Okay, first of all, some people are just not good test takers. Some people are smart in other ways. And what they do with these test scores, they build prisons off of these low test scores. When I was in elementary, all the time, I used to get told this. Talking about 3rd to 5th grade, right? I used to always tell us, they building prisons for you. They building prisons for y'all right now. That's what we always used to get told. And I went to a public school. I went to public schools. They used to tell us this all the time. That's why parents, and my kids, they're not school age yet. But that's why as parents, we have to start stepping in and teaching our kids ourselves. Teaching our kids how to be innovative. Teaching our kids how to be creative. Teaching our kids how to think outside the box. Teaching our kids how to be problem solvers. Teaching our kids how to actively build things, work on things with their hands. Teaching our kids how to survive in certain situations. How to have financial literacy. None of that is being taught in these schools. None of that. And they target all the black people. If I was a black parent, I would most definitely get my kid out that school with the quickness and in a hurry. They targeted all the black students, basically telling the black kids that they're less than and they are underachievers. And that's what these schools are designed to do in the first place when it comes to black kids, right? When we looking at history and reading history in our schools, all they teach us is that we were slaves, and they teach us about the civil rights movement. And they take a lot of stuff about the civil rights movement, about all all the real revolutionaries that they really don't want to talk about. You know, they talk about Martin Luther King, but you know, I never really learned about Malcolm X. They never talked about the deacons of defense. They just talked about the non-violence, turn the other cheek. They just talk about stuff like that. They never talked about the Black Wall Streets. They never talked about how much money we made from the Negro Leagues before we joined the actual National Baseball League. They never talked about how much wealth we had before integration, or the black enclaves that we have, or all the prosperous black cities that we had built. They never mentioned any of that in the histories. They never mentioned that we once had our own black car company. They don't mention stuff like this on how we was innovators, how we was the owners, how we were the problem solvers. They don't mention stuff like that in our history. They teach us that all the white people were the heroes. All the white people were the innovators. You know, they tell us to look up to these presidents that was murderers and slave owners. Tell us look up to them. And they have statues of them everywhere. Yeah. This is what they are actively teaching us. That's what they taught us in our schools. That the white people were the heroes and we were just, hey, we were slaves and we turned the other cheek doing the civil rights. And not to knock anything that Martin Luther King or any of the nonviolent protests that happened back during the civil rights movements. You know, that was most definitely necessary as well. But they leave out a lot of the other stuff. But say we like a R. Kelly or something, right? They want us to completely stop listening to his music because of, you know, what he done. And I'm not saying, you know, I'm most definitely not condoning him or defending anything that was done by R. Kelly. But they tell us to praise these presidents like your Thomas Jeffersons and your George Washingtons that own that own tons of slaves and thought that black people were less than human. They tell us to look up to them as our heroes, though. That's what they teach us. And any other, you know, any of these other white figures, you know, that they tell us to look up to in the history books, right? A lot of them didn't like black people. A lot of them was racist. A lot of them owned slaves. So why should I even care or even have any type of interest in what you talking about with these people? Because all these people's philosophies or whatever we're learning in these books, they don't apply to us because they thought we was less than human, right? So they are actively using anti-black racism to target our kids. And they using school as a way to get black kids into the prison pipeline. Because schools is, like I said before, it's set up like a prison. It's basically just a miseducation institution to get you into prison. So that is how the right wing, the Republican, your DeSantis, is getting at our black kids through miseducation and just anti-black racism and period. Completely targeting our kids. And a lot of these teachers that are in these schools dislike black kids and have vitriol towards black kids. So yeah, so let's get into how the left wing, or what you would say the liberals or the Democratic Party, targets our kids. Now, they are not just targeting black kids, they targeting everybody kids with this. So let's get into it.
Didn't think it could get any worse. California is here to show you that it definitely can. The California State Assembly has now passed a bill that will punish parents with the loss of custody of their kids if they don't accept and enable the confusion of those kids. This bill is heading right to the desk of Governor Gavin Newsom, and knowing him, he's probably going to sign it. And just so you know I'm not kidding, you can read along with me. Under the proposed law, parents who fail to acknowledge and support their child's gender transition could face potential consequences, including the loss of custody rights to another parent or even the state itself. This new legislation, titled Transgender, Gender Diverse, and Intersex Youth Empowerment Act, seeks to prioritize health, safety, and welfare of children, placing a spotlight on affirming a child's gender identity. Yes, because affirming a child's gender identity is the most important thing when it comes to the health, safety, and welfare of children. And the bill was initially introduced by this lady, Democratic Assemblywoman Miss Lori D. Wilson. Let's see what she has to say about it.
That parents affirm their children. They have since the dawn of time.
When did the dawn of time start? 10 years ago? It's never been a parent's job to just affirm whatever their kid says to them. Parents are there to use their knowledge and maturity to help guide their kids in the right direction, not enable them down a path of chaos and confusion.
Typically, it happens when their gender identity expression matches their biological gender. But what happens is when it doesn't, that's when the affirmation starts to wane, and that's what we're dealing with here.
That's kind of how common sense, rationality, and good reasoning works. When somebody tells you something that matches reality, you'll probably go along with it. When somebody tells you something that doesn't match reality and you have a functional brain, you probably won't just affirm it as true. Using your brain isn't a crime that should be punishable by revoking your custody of your children. That's insane.
What's mentioned in the law is the child's gender identity and expression and the parent's affirmation of that, whatever it is, because that is our duty as parents, to affirm our children.
You heard it here first, parents. Your duty to your kids isn't to provide for them or protect them or use your expansive wealth of knowledge and wisdom to help guide them away from making childish and uninformed mistakes. It's to affirm whatever the hell they tell you.
So actually, Governor Gavin Newsom actually vetoed that bill, and rightfully so, and I had to give him his props for that. I actually didn't think he would sign that because he's more on the conservative side. I don't agree with everything he do, but I have to give him props for that. And as you can see, what they like to do in these political arenas, they like to use black faces to push their agenda. And as you can see, they are putting this black woman to the forefront, Lori D. Wilson, to push that agenda. Basically saying if parents don't agree with a child wanting to change their sexual identity, then that child could be taken away from them, because it's a part of quote unquote mental health and wellness. And that's absurd. First of all, you're supposed to be a parent. You're not supposed to be your kids' friends. When I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of say-so in a lot of things, and rightfully so. As a kid, you shouldn't have a say-so in a lot of things because, first of all, your brain is not mature enough to make certain decisions on your own, especially like life-changing decisions, like getting a sex change. There's already grown adults coming up talking about this, saying how they actually regret getting a sex change and they wish their parents would have intervened and stopped them from getting a sex change when they were a kid, instead of just going along and being dilly-dally with it. Because those sex changes, not only do they go through a whole bunch of depression and everything afterwards, because it's all confusion. It's all confusion. Not only do they go through depression, but a lot of the stuff that they go through is painful. Sorry about that, y'all. I'm actively at work, but yeah, it causes a lot of pain as well. So no kids can't make decisions like that. And what they do, they try to persuade children, right? Indoctrinate children to be like that. If you start telling these things to a 5-year-old or somebody in kindergarten or a very young and impressionable mind, that's going to motivate them to do that. That's going to cause curiosity. And that's what they like to do. They like to push this agenda. They like to talk about these things. They want to start talking about these things at earlier and earlier ages so it can persuade our kids to be curious and start to look into that type of lifestyle. That's why you're seeing more and more of the younger generation living that type of lifestyle, because it's constantly pushed down their throats. You see it through media, through all the new cartoons. It always has to be something about LGBTQT. It always has to be added in, right? Give me 1 second, y'all. Hold up. Okay, my bad. But yeah, it always has to be added in to influence our kids. And once they constantly getting it pushed down their throat through music, through media, through schooling, they're going to think that lifestyle is the norm. And they're going to gravitate towards more of that lifestyle. They're going to be more accepting towards that lifestyle because it's always in their face, right? So look, y'all, man, whatever you can do. I mean, if you can't, listen, if you can't actively get your kids out of the public schools, make sure you're also teaching them and forewarning your kids about the miseducation that the schools are doing. Make sure you're teaching them at home as well. I know parents are busy. They have things to do. So they're not able to homeschool their kids like they need to, but it should be a goal at a certain point in time, or put them in like private schools to where they are not pushing that agenda, right? You can put them in like a Christian school or something like that, right? But even some of these private schools, they have their own agendas as well. So That's why I would say for black kids, you know, the best alternative would be to homeschool. You know, because some of these Christian schools and these private schools have anti-black racism. But yeah, our kids are trying or being attacked from all angles, from both sides. So that's why I never be so up in arms about it's Democrats doing this, it's Republicans doing this. It's two sides of the same wing, y'all. When y'all gonna get up out of there? Neither one of them have the best interest for black people. But yeah, I just want to talk about those couple things real quick. I'm about to get up off of here. I had a few other things to do. But yeah, y'all. Y'all stay blessed. Y'all have a good day. And peace. Oh yeah, and shout out to the brother who made TikTok. He couldn't have said it any better. So y'all go check his TikTok out as well.